Hello, hello to everyone watching the Today is Your Day show. I am so excited and elated that you decided to join us tonight. Listen, we are going live from Seattle, Washington tonight. Yeah, so of course, I'm a little dim. It's all right. We're making it work. We thank God for it. We're going to keep it moving. But again, I'm so excited that you decided to join us tonight. So we're going to start our show with prayer as we always do. So Lord, we thank you. We thank you for this time of togetherness, this time of fellowship, this time of learning some nuggets and being a blessing to those that are watching. Lord, I pray that you guide and lead this show tonight, that we have great Wi-Fi, that we can hear and see each other, that the audience can hear and see us clearly, and that we just have a good time in you, that we convey the information that the audience needs to hear and learn, and so they can have their family set. Lord, I pray that you touch each and every one that is watching right now. Let them understand that you are with them and never leave them nor forsake them, but you are blessing them in the midst of whatever's going on, that your hand is right there, and that this too shall pass. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and they are not alone. They are not alone. They're not forgotten, and you still love them in spite of the things that they or we have done. You still bless us in spite of that, and you still love us, and you're not mad with us. You forgive us. And we need to learn to forgive ourselves. So we just thank you for this opportunity to come together tonight to just enjoy you in the midst of all that we're doing. I pray that those that are watching, they continue to watch, because this is a show that you have told me to start, and that, hey, this is something that they could do as well and be a part of. And so we thank you, we love you, and we ask all these things in your son, Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Again, thank you all for joining us. And I'm really excited about our guest this evening. And I'll definitely share more about him after our announcement. So let's get ready to hear what's going on. And here are your announcements. Look, I need you to go to www.davisconsultantsgroup.com and go get your 31-day daily devotional. I'm calling all ministers, people that are over organizations, business owners. This book will be such a blessing to you. I'm telling you, you get this book. It's really easy to read and to follow through on your 31-day daily devotional. Listen, you do these things, you will see a great difference in your organization, your ministry, and your business. I truly believe that God downloaded to me these words to bless your business. So go today, www.davisconsultantsgroup.com, and get this devotional. It will be a definite blessing for not only you, but those that come in contact with your business, your organization, or your ministry. Listen, we are wanting to live a healthier life. I'm an ambassador for Plexus. I'm also a client. I take my products daily, and it has done a great number on my health. My health journey has gone from like 10 to 100, because I'm not only sleeping better, I have better digestion, I have more energy, I'm focused more. Listen, what you need is to call me, hit me up on Facebook, or reach out to me on davisconsultantsgroup.com, and let's talk about some Plexus and how I can help you on this health journey that you are in need of. We have some great prices and some great products that I believe will truly be a blessing to you and your health. Hey, if it's not for you, reach out for someone else. Somebody else is in need. They may have pain. They may need some energy. They may need some gut health. Listen, we got it all right here with Plexus. Hit me up either on Facebook, or you can hit me up on my website, davisconsultantsgroup.com. We want to be a blessing to you, but I want to make sure that we are living this life to the fullest and the best that we can. And you can only do that being healthy. Listen, our sponsors are making sure that you don't miss out on this book study of Daniel. They're doing this Bible study class, the book of Daniel, and it has been truly a blessing. It was so good. In August, they have moved it over to September because they don't want you to miss all that the book of Daniel has to tell you. My life is being changed every Thursday when I go to this class on YouTube at the Proclamation 101. I want you to do that right after this show. I want you to go to YouTube and look up the Proclamation 101, press subscribe, hit the little bell to make sure that you do not miss anything that they have going on. And we want to thank the Proclamation 101 for being a sponsor for the Today Is Your Day show. Also, we can't forget about Davis Consultants. Listen, what do? We do mentoring, coaching, life coaching. We do business consulting and business coaching, and also ministry consulting. Listen, we have all got these callings. We have these businesses. We need to make sure how to move these things forward. And I believe that we can give you the strategy. We can work with you to help you get to where you have been desiring to be. You don't have to worry about paying at first. Listen, we can have a consultation, a free consultation, and we can talk about what you are desiring and how we can be of assistance to you. Don't miss it. Reach out to us at www.davisconsultantsgroup.com. That's www.davisconsultantsgroup.com. Listen, I want you to be a blessing to those that are in need of whatever you have to offer. And you can only do that if you get started and get your stuff together, and we can be of assistance to you. All right, these are your announcements. Now, let's hear our Today Is Your Day show moment.
Hey, have you been brutally honest with yourself ever and said, I'm not living to my full potential? Have you ever asked yourself why? Think about it. If you were living at your full potential, would your life be different? Are you not doing it because it's a lot of work, or are you not doing it because you feel you have to keep it up? It's something I think about myself. You're not alone. I ask myself all the time, can you do more? Is this really all you got? I know it's not. I know I can do more. And I should. And I will. This year's not up. This year's not up for you or me. We have a lot of time. And we can do a lot in a little bit of time. Listen, we're in a season of open doors and open mouth. Listen, your mouth is your key. Use it. But speak life over yourself and push yourself to do a lot more than what you're doing. You have so much in store for your life, and you have so much inside of you. But if you're not doing anything, you're going to die with it. And there are people waiting on what you have. So let's take a seat back and say, you know what? I need to do more with me. There's a lot more that I'm actually not doing that I should be. And so get to it. I'm sure you'll be very proud of yourself and happy with your life. All right. Remember, today is your day.
I'm Eugene Perry.
I'm Donna Perry, and we're the host
Of Young People Nation
podcast.
We know that mental health is way too stigmatized. Young people are hurting. They are in dark places, just wanting to feel heard.
That's why we're bringing no judgment conversations with the guests who have been there, done that, and want to share their experiences in an environment with transparency, healing, and safety.
So tune in and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And just remember,
there's always hope.
There is always hope. And of course, I hope that you join Young People Nation every Thursday at noon to learn about what you need to talk about with these young people and just learn what is going on through the young people's minds. Listen, we're all going through something, but even personally talking to kids in Belize, students in Belize, I went to Belize a week or so ago and talked to the students there. And I'm like, man, y'all are really going through. But we don't know that. We don't know that until we have a conversation with them, or if you just listen to some young people talk, it's like they'll tell you what's going on, and they're walking around with a lot and holding in a lot. But hey, they need us. They need an ear. They need a hug. They need somebody just to give them some time and let them know that someone cares. Someone cares. Just that little bit will go a long way. I'm telling y'all, it will go a long way. But we definitely want to thank Young People Nation Podcast for being the sponsor for the Today Is Your Day show moment. Y'all, I am so elated to have this young man with us today. I have known this young man all his life. I pretty much, helped raise him. And we just are just so excited. We're just so excited that Anthony Henderson decided to join us on the Today Is Your Day show. We are going to be talking about aging parents, but he has some nuggets and some practical things that we need to do, that we need to talk about, that we need to put on the forefront of our minds as we continue to get older. As I said in the video yesterday, it's like, we were getting older, but we never thought, our parents were as well. Well, I'm just talking about me. I could just talk about me. I just always thought my parents were staying the same age they were as I was getting older. Like, why they didn't ask me if they can get older, but I guess they did not have a choice. And so we definitely thank Anthony Henderson for joining us today. It says he's a caregiver, a living kidney donor, and I'm sure he'll share his story about that. But we are definitely elated and glad that you decided to join us tonight. So welcome, Mr. Anthony Henderson.
Why, thank you kindly, sir. How you doing?
I am good. I also, fun fact about this young man that I have known all his life, we are also birthday twins. We are both born on October 17th, just a little space in between. Just a little space in between.
Just a little space. And of course, you're saying it in reverse. You have not known me all my life. I have known you all your life. In fact, there's enough space between us where I was able to hold you when you were a baby. You were born somewhere right before I went to college. And, as you can see, I'm a lot more salt now than pepper.
Listen, mine's coming in.
So, yes. We got gray in our eyebrows. Like, what's happening?
That's where it started. That's where it started. It's been trickling down ever since. Not proud about it, but it's okay. You make it look good. But
well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
I left my black marker at the house, so it's okay.
You're Sharpie, huh?
That's right. It's all good. But we're excited that you came on, and this is a topic that very well. Very well.
Indeed. Yeah.
But let's ask, why did you agree to talk about this on the show? Why did you feel it was actually important?
Well, thank you for asking that, because the impetus behind the idea for saying yes to you finally coming on the show was that November is recognized as National Family Caregivers Month. So I have for a long time advocated for us to have these conversations openly. A lot of people don't like to have these conversations, especially Black families. I'm just going to put it out there. We don't talk about, what we want to happen, or who's going to be responsible for what, or who's in charge. A lot of times it's assumed. So, in recognition of National Family Caregivers Month coming up, I wanted to start a series of conversations. So that's why I came. And I also want to read you something. It's a quote from President Biden. It says, "Family caregivers are the backbone of our nation's long-term care system, doing essential work with devotion, often at great emotional and financial cost. We owe them. It is time to bring their service out of the shadows and celebrate and support them in living their own happy, healthy, and fulfilling lives." And I agree more.
Why do we feel like that is just, and listen, why is this just so important? Why should this be so important to us?
Can I give you some facts and figures I researched?
Come on.
All right. So This is a study that is by the National Opinion Research Center in the University of Chicago from 2017. Real quick study. 70% of people over the age of 30 felt like the United States was not equipped to deal with the aging population. Okay? 2/3 of people over age 30 are worried about losing their independence. The top worry for people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s is financial security, right? But the top worry for people in their 60s and 70s is losing their memory. So when you think about what this is saying, the top 4 things that people worry about between their 30s and the end of their 60s is financial security, losing their memory, poor health, and losing their independence, right? Now, I have another side. I got another study, right?
Go for it.
The Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania in 2017 said 63% of folks, that's almost 2/3, do not have an advance directive. Only 29.3% of folks have a living will making their final wishes known. And only 33% or 1/3 had designated a healthcare power of attorney. So now put those two together, right? What you have is a bunch of people who are worried about a bunch of conditions that they or anybody else are not doing much about. And they worry about it for a long period of time. So if you think about it, 30s to 70s is the vast majority of our adult lives, right?
Correct.
And we spend that whole time with these things on our mind, but we are not talking about it. Not enough of us are talking about it or addressing it.
Listen, I am 40 in a few weeks, and all those topics have been crossing my mind. So I understand that is actually important, but I think there needs to be, I think that worry comes because we don't plan well. And well, I think because we're just so focused on today that we'll get to that later.
We like to think we will, right? So here's another not so fun fact, right? So the population is going to grow between the years of 2020 and 2050. The population of people over 50 is going to grow by 60+%. However, the population of people over 50 in that same amount of time, there is a 99+% growth percentage of people who will have at least one chronic illness. So basically, sickness is growing faster than the population, right? And if you think about it, those of us that are hitting the generations, I'm now in my mid-50s, I'll be 55 next month. And that is a big deal because, you know, there are things that are changing in my body. You know, I'm stiffer when I get up. You know, I got gray eyebrows. You know, I can't multitask the way I used to. I got to focus on 1 or 2 things instead of 10. I don't have the energy I used to have. So when these things change, of course, you counter it through, you know, exercise and healthy diet and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, you still you got to deal with these changes that are happening. And I think everybody, I have a message that if that Jonathan, I'm still in the show, but Jonathan's out, which probably means that I'm not really still in the show. So we'll see what happens. I'll wait for him to come back. If you can still see and hear me, let me know. Perfect. Wouldn't that be so gangster if I just took over Jonathan's show while he was gone, figuring out his technology? So let's do that. I want to tell you a little bit about how my caregiver journey started. Literally, thank you all, by the way. Hey, I see some of my friends on here and some of my colleagues at work. I appreciate y'all and the fam. What's up, Devonna? I want to tell you about my caregiver's journey. Most of you that know me know that or think that it started with my parents, but really it did. It started with my grandmother. She turned 91. She had been living independently, and she was she had an event where she had to be taken from her apartment to the hospital. When she got there, and by the way, this was in 2007, so how many years ago? When she got to the hospital, the doctor called us and said, I need to speak to you. We went. He said, fortunately, we can discharge your grandmother from the hospital, but we will not be able to allow her to live independently. So if she's going to go back to her apartment, we cannot discharge her. We have to get social services involved, and all of these things have to happen. So at the time, my grandmother was 91. My parents were in their 70s. So they were not equipped to then take in and take care of fully a 91-year-old. So they agreed to take her in, give her a place in their home, but I had to handle all of the business associated with her life, everything from her finances to paying her bills to talking to her doctors and I was living away, so I had to manage it from a distance and travel back and forth. So these are the things that began my caregiver's journey. After my grandmother, you guys can still see me, right? Just give me a quick yes or something. Yes? Maybe I've stopped. Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. After my grandmother, as my parents continued aging, because my grandmother eventually passed away, I had to then take on the role full time for my parents. So this was a really life-changing moment. Those of you that are from Miami, that are from the old church, that remember my parents, know that it was quite an undertaking to move back and begin the process of caring for them. And there were so many things that we had to think about. One was, what was my goal as a caregiver, right? So that's a good question. What if you have to think about this caregiving process, which many of us will, what is going to be your goal as a caregiver? My goal was to show love to my parents the way they showed it to me, and to make sure that they could age in place, and to make sure that they were always treated with dignity and respect. So that was the foundation of my caregiver's journey with my parents and also my grandmother, right? So what is your capacity for it? Okay. I had the capacity to relocate from where I was, to go back, to sit with my parents and take care of them and get in their business, manage their affairs. Fortunately, they were ailing and aging, but at the time that I got back to Miami, they were still somewhat independent. I was able to get there in time to roll with the punches throughout the entire process. You need to know, in addition to your capacity, how large do you want your caregiving team to be? Okay. You are not a one-stop shop, right? Don't ever think that you are a one-stop shop in this process. So you need to know how large you want your caregiving team to be. I'll give you an example. My dad, because he had VA benefits, he was entitled to certain privileges with different companies and caregiving services coming out. So at one point in my dad's care, we hired 2 people in the daytime. We hired a person overnight, like a company overnight. And then throughout the day, these 3 caregiving services would come out. Now, I didn't double count. All of that was happening with my dad. My dad literally saw probably like 7 or 8 people a day at home. Okay. So while this was going on, I was working full time, right? I was also cooking breakfast and I was also cooking dinner. The people that were coming in were more this is in the early days, were more like service, like home health aid type people that would come in, bathe my dad, give him what he needed, make sure he was good, and then they would roll out. So they would only stay maybe an hour a day. So you need a team. You have to figure out who that team is. The other thing about the team is you really have to know or try to find people that you can trust, right? In my case, we were so very, very, very fortunate that 2 family members and more, but really 2 primary family members stepped in. And literally every weekday that I had to go to work, there was additional coverage in the house with my mom to care for my dad. So at least I could work through the day and not worry if they were okay, right? Here's a big one. And this is something I'm not sure that was ever disclosed, but if you are in a position to, you do not take people for granted. You pay them for their time, for their energy, for their gas, for whatever it takes. If you can come up with something reasonable so that people don't feel taken advantage of, because when people volunteer to help you and it is a consistent and ongoing process, that time will get tired real quick when people start saying, I'm not going to be able to come next week, or I'm not going to be able to do this and that. So, it's important to establish kind of a routine where people don't feel taken advantage of and they feel willing to support. And it helps them to process, and be appreciated in the care that they're giving as well, right? Now, when my dad died, obviously the VA benefits ended. He died right before my mom, like maybe a year and 2 months before my mother did. Things changed. So the way my dad's life was set up, and this is a whole nother masterclass later, right? When he died, his income stopped, except for my mom was able to get his Social Security. Because I was home and I was working and taking care of my mother, now my income had to support the household I was living in with my mother, right? No problem, right? All right, so my mother's situation was a little different because we could not afford the level of services that my dad had because he had the VA. So with my mom, we had 2 caregivers. My same 2 cousins that supported my dad stayed on. So my cousins literally worked with me hand in hand for about 2 to 3 years during this process. That's a long time to give care to people who are, aging and progressing in their illnesses and stuff. So you have to make sure that you're right. I have to tell you, the best advice I ever got was from my good friend Del Marie Hines in Washington, D.C., who started her caregiving journey right before I moved full time to do it with my parents. She said, get help early and get help often. Get help early and get help often. So that was the impetus behind having all those services and exploring all that stuff with my dad. And you would be surprised that even with all that help, I still had to jump in way more than I needed to. And it was very stressful. It is not an easy journey. So you really want to make sure that you are supported. Again, you want to know what you can afford. And if you are having to spend money on it, how comfortable are you with that given your own obligations, And then I have another couple of quotes I want to share because we're going to move into a different side of this topic in a few minutes, right? All right. Forgive while you caregive. Somebody write that in the chat. Forgive while you caregive. Now, because I was taking care of my parents, here comes all the stuff, right? So, although there's love and there's trust and there's respect and there's regard and there's all these other things, right? Where are the places of unresolved stuff between you and the people you love who you're caring for? Because it's going to come up, right? You have to forgive while you caregive. You have to discover whether or not there's resentments, whether or not there is fear, whether or not you need to have hard conversations. these things are so incredibly important as you think about, you know, what's coming up. Because I remember times when I was thinking, you know, there are parts of my life that my parents didn't accept, but I have to literally sit here and accept every part of them and change their diapers and cook food and do this and do that. And so it can really be a journey if you're holding resentment. So I'm just saying, forgive while you caregive. Okay. And the last quote is from a very, very dear person in my life, is self-care is the best care. And it is true. Self-care is the best care. Now, I want you to know this other thing too. You have to really know your capacity, and you have to be honest with yourself. Okay? If this is not for you, right, then you either have to build a system big enough where you can support yourself through it and make it through it, or you have to be honest with yourself, because you don't want to put the people you love in a situation where you burn yourself out. I mentioned a quote from my friend Del Marie when she was considering putting her mother in a nursing home, which for many of us isn't an option because, you know, we love hospital beds in the living room with grandma on it, right? Just saying. She was interviewing nursing homes to consider for her mom, right? And when she got there, one of the reps took her on a tour, and the tour included a patient room. And it was intentional. You know, the lady took her intentionally to this patient's room. She said, I want you to see these two patients. Well, one was a mother and the other was a daughter. Turns out the daughter had been caregiving for the mom, and the daughter had a stroke in the process. And they both ended up in a nursing home. Okay. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Again, self-care is the best care. All right. Are y'all still with me? Am I still here, or have I been talking for 20 minutes without? All right. So I'm going to keep going. The next thing I want to talk about is parenting our parents. This may be the hardest part of this conversation. You know, life takes a really dramatic turn when you know, there's the phrase, once a man, twice a child, right? Or once an adult, twice children, right? So life can take a really dramatic turn when adults become caregivers for their parents. It is especially hard when these adults have minor children and then have to be also caregiving for their parents, because really the number of children they have double or increases by the number of parents they're caring for, right? So, you know, you want to make sure that you are really assessing your capacity, that you have the proper support. I had a lot of fun moments with my mom, and one of the things that Jonathan had was a slideshow, and I was going to actually show you all pictures of my parents throughout their aging process, from the time they were married to the time I was a little boy, to, you know, me being, you know, younger, middle-aged, and to right before they, you know, went on to the next life. I wanted you to see that visual because it's a lifetime full of memories, but you can see in certain pictures where I had become sort of the adult in the situation, right? Like I had to really take care of my mother. I had to drive her around. Both my parents lost the ability to drive and to function. You know, they would throw tantrums. They would argue with each other. You know, they would not want to eat certain things I cook, right? Sound familiar, but the opposite, right? So I just want you to know that parenting your parents is a very, very, very difficult feat. Now, I'll keep going, but if you have questions, please feel free. I can see the chat, so please feel free to put anything in the chat. I'd be happy to stop and address your question. There are instances when, while people can set up and have the systems necessary for long-term care. Like I have a friend who is now in Pompano Beach, Florida. He is in his 80s. He was intentional about his aging process and setting up a long-term system of care so that he did not put his children in a position to have to care for him. So what he did was, he paid whatever money was required to move into what they call a graduated or step facility. So he has an independent living apartment on his campus, which is very nice and, lovely and all that stuff. But then as he ages, when he is no longer able to care for himself, he will move to the next level in that same community, whether it is assisted living or nursing care. And then when he needs hospice care, if it comes to that, he will get that in the same community, right? So not everybody has to need care from their children. My friend was like, my children are not going to do this. I'm not going to have it. I want them to have their life in full. I want them to raise their children in full. I don't want them to have to worry about me. I will say that that is a very, very, very expensive option that requires years of planning in advance. And I just spent the whole first half of this conversation saying to you guys that a lot of us don't talk about it. So my friend is one that got way ahead of it. He's a trendsetter, I tell you, because I look at the way he's enjoying his life. He walks around his community. He puts pictures on Facebook of flowers blooming and the cruises he's taken and doing all of that stuff, right? But at the same time, he feels whole in the fact that his children don't have to worry about him. And they will be notified or get whatever calls they need. They visit, everything is fine, but they don't have to take responsibility for his care. So if you are a couple or a family with the means, you can put a system in place so that you don't have to depend on others for your care when the appropriate time comes. All right. So, let's see what else I have for you. Resources. I feel like I gave you a lot of information. I can see in the chat you guys are saying yes and enjoying it, and this is really good and all that stuff. I appreciate it. This is not sort of taboo information, and I'm not holding a secret, right? All this information is available. You just have to do a little bit of digging, right? And a lot of it is public knowledge, and you can go to very common places to learn about it. For example, AARP is a great place to start. You can, they have an entire segment of their website dedicated to caregivers. So if you type in like AARP/caregiving or something like that, they will tell you resources and toolkits and things that you need. You can go to Health and Human Services. You can go to, if you're entitled to veterans benefits, you can go to the VA Caregivers Support Program on the web. You have a lot of local community-based organizations, depending on the state you're in. 9 times out of 10, there is a senior care or an elder care agency within your local government. So there are a lot of places you can go just to start thinking about what you need to do and how this might impact you in the future. All right. So I am watching the chat. If you all have any questions, I would be happy to talk about them. I will say that one thing that I am hoping Jonathan and I can do in November, which is National Family Caregiving Month, that we can do. I have this little template that I call a life management notebook. So I would like to do a masterclass to teach you how to put together a notebook to help you manage your life. I first did this when my grandmother, I told you I had to take care of my grandmother's affairs. So I literally got a binder, a 1-inch or 1.5-inch binder, and figured out the necessary tabs that should go in it, to the point where when it came time to plan her funeral, I picked up the binder, I went in the funeral home, and an hour and a half later, I was done. Like the whole process was literally done outside of, getting the programs and stuff like that. But it was so helpful to have her life so organized. So I want to do a masterclass in November about this process. It is not difficult, but it does require your presence. It does require you to be willing to have hard conversations with folks. Now, I don't know if any parents are on this live or watching the show. If you are parents who are senior citizens, please open your minds and open your hearts and open your mouths to talk to your children about what you're feeling about the aging process and what you're feeling about the type of care that you will need as you age through life. Okay. I see that Zen for Life Living is saying some applications for care can take 9 to 12 months. So plan ahead so you know what resources are right for your family. It's true. And actually, you know, one of the really hard conversations that's more taboo than hard. And I'll give you an example. So a lot of you may know Bishop Carlton Pearson. If you don't know, Bishop Carlton Pearson is dealing with a reoccurring cancer right now that is back, and he has been hospitalized. And although he's doing okay, you know, he did make it known that he was facing death. And then he said, but you know, we're all going to die, just not at the same time. And he is an amazing spirit, but we have to open up. So my friend Zen for Life Living is here, and she is what is known as like a death doula. Now, I'm not going to take you there, but the same way you have a midwife who brings life into the world, there are people who support life as it is exiting this world. That's next level. I don't know if y'all ready for that one. You can tell me if you want that kind of masterclass, and we'll set it up. But that is a brilliant thing. I have to tell you, I was present with both my parents when they made their transitions. Thankfully, thanks to God, that I was able to be there for them to the really end. Right. All right. So let me just see if I have anything else. If Jonathan was here, we had a lot more interaction. So I think I might finish his show early, unless you guys have some good questions. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I'm here. You guys got questions? Will you, how many of you on the chat, if you just type yes or no, if you don't mind saying so, have some kind of will in place to protect your assets or your properties or whatever, or that you have named who is getting what and it's legal? Just put yes or no if you're willing to. Perfect, Donna. Excellent. So important. Perfect. If you're not putting yes, I could easily assume it's no, because that's what the statistics tell us, right? That people don't talk about it. It's also one thing to have it. I have it. I've had it for now about 9 years or so. But guess what? I haven't updated it. And some of the people that I intended to get stuff before have already died. So I have to go in and update my own stuff. So I'm just being authentic, right? Not only do you want a will, you want to make sure you have advanced directives. How many of us have been to a hospital or a doctor's office and they say, do you have advanced directives and do you want to fill them out now? And we just click, no, we'll deal with it later. That's so the easy way out. But think about getting advanced directives in place. With my parents, I was able to have their durable power of attorney, so I could literally conduct any business on their behalf. Ruby is asking, how did I deal with the tantrums? It all depends. If the tantrum was dedicated to me or directed toward me, it might have been a little more difficult. If it was directed toward each other, then I kind of observed and just make sure they didn't hurt each other's feelings too bad. I'm talking about both my parents. The tantrums with me were more about what I was willing to do or not do. So, you know, your parents love you for the most part. You want to guide them, you know, in terms of medication, in terms of doctor's appointments, in terms of keeping themselves up. And sometimes they can be a little resistant to it. So, the first option is to be super loving, right? Like, I really love you. I really want you to be as healthy as possible and be with me as long as possible. That would go a long way. Because your parents, if they're no longer willing to do it for themselves because they've gotten ornery, they are going to still love you and do it for you because you love them. So that might be one thing to try, Ruby. So how did Jonathan close his show? Should I play some music? Should I come back later? Let me know, let him know. We can certainly have, this conversation was sort of like level 1. Oh, there he is. He's back. Do I have to let you back in your own show? Anyway, I really want to thank you all for joining us. If you want more, let Jonathan know. Oh, here we got a question from Anthony Davis. How would you deal with a sibling who are resistant because of your designation as a primary caregiver? That is an excellent question. Now, let me do a disclaimer, Anthony. I was raised an only child. So there was also the burden of having to have the caregiving team be completely people from outside. I mean, family, but not inside the house, right? I would consider siblings like the kind of inside the house people, right? However, I think first and foremost, you focus on the job at hand, which is you have been designated as the primary caregiver, so you have to do your job. Managing that relationship because of other stuff, maybe you set aside a time to kind of get together over lunch or whatever and talk about the other stuff. But your first and most primary role, in addition to caring for yourself, is your designation as a primary caregiver. And that should not be compromised, right? So any sibling that has an issue with that, maybe you talk to the parent. Maybe you say, hey, look, sis is having an issue. The parent will tell you, my mother was very clear. There were things she wanted me to handle and not my dad in case she got sick before him. So, they will tell you what they want. And if you honor that, then you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. So, Anthony, I hope that was helpful. Any other questions? All right, you can reach me. I will give you just my Gmail address. If you have any questions and you want to follow up, let me see. Can I join the chat? If I can join the chat, I will put it. No, I got to connect YouTube. Listen, the first 3 letters of my name, ant.henderson@gmail.com. ant.henderson@gmail.com, right? So if you want to follow up, if you want more information, if you want to come to a masterclass or want Jonathan to do a masterclass with me later, let him know. Otherwise, I'm going to wish you all a magnificent night. I'm so glad that we've had people show up because this is not, for a lot of people, an easy conversation to have. And so I just want to make sure that that you all follow up if you're ready to start talking and come to the masterclass and send me your questions, whatever. All right. Thank you for being on watching the Today Is Your Day show. I am your guest host, Anthony Henderson. Jonathan Davis had technical difficulties and couldn't be with us throughout the show. I'm practicing now, right? All right. Everybody have a great night. Thank you so much. And I was happy to be with you, and I look forward to talking to you again.